Do you like fantasy anime? Some isekai filled with interesting world building, exciting adventures, and a ton of magic and mystery? Me too! Now, do you like unending pain and suffering? What's up, anime fans and manga readers? You already know what we're all about. The best anime recommendation show on the planet is back with another episode, and this time we're going to be putting you onto a modern classic in the world of fantasy anime. As we've talked about before here on the channel, the fantasy genre in anime is smack dab in the middle of a renaissance. Just this year alone, we've had two major juggernauts in the forms of Frieren and Dungeon Meshi, and Dandadan is already taking the world by storm, even with just a few episodes on air. It's a far cry from the innumerable NPC shows we were getting just a few years ago. However, it wasn't all bad. Way back in 2016, a little show called ReZero dropped, and I, admittedly a younger and less cultured viewer back then, did not get what the hype was all about. I wrongfully believed that every isekai show was a different flavor of the same generic fantasy story about a random, bland, self-insert character who finds himself in a copy-paste version of the same medieval Europe-inspired fantasy world and becomes overpowered or creates a harem, or both. When I finally got around to seeing ReZero, it didn't take long to change my mind. ReZero, or if you prefer its full government name, Re-Life Starting Life in Another World from Zero, was originally published as a web novel by author Tappei Nagatsuki in 2012. It exploded in popularity in the months that followed, and following the familiar trajectory of most successful web novels, it was soon adapted into a light novel, and then a couple of years later, an anime, the very same one we're talking about right now. So what exactly is it that sets ReZero apart from other isekai? As with many isekais, ReZero follows a protagonist who is a little down on his luck. Subaru Natsuki is a NEET, a shut-in, a hikikomori. Thankfully, he's not like our good pal Rudeus from Mushoku Tensei, and he isn't a total degenerate. He spends his days shut inside his room doing nothing but playing video games and reading manga. Ain't that the dream? One night, he leaves his room to a convenience store close by to stock up on some important stuff, like, more manga and instant noodles, but he begins to feel like something's not right. He's having these weird flashes of someone dying and a voice that sounds like his own. Naturally, Subaru chalks it up to the fact that he's been playing video games all day, and that it's his first time outside his room in a minute. He could have not been farther from the truth. He steps out to stand by the road, and at this point, every fan of isekai knows what comes next. I waited to see the legendary Truck-kun, the absolute menace responsible for sending dozens of isekai protagonists to another world speeding down the road toward him. Except this time, subverting all expectations, he didn't show up. This is where I began to get an inkling that ReZero might be something different. Standing there by the road, Subaru simply blinks, and he finds himself in a world entirely unfamiliar to the one he knows. Carts, carriages, merchants selling strange fruits, and creatures of all races crowding the streets. One moment, he's in the dark street under a flickering streetlight in a quiet neighborhood, and the next, he's God knows where. And what does he do? He's a gamer and a weeb, and so of course, he gets excited. He moves around wide-eyed and enchanted, looking for every slight opportunity to test his new magical powers, because that's the way it usually goes in the manga he reads. Unfortunately, no such powers manifest, and things begin to go downhill fast for the confused teenager. He wanders into an abandoned alleyway, and he's soon attacked by a group of thugs. With only a bag of groceries and a now useless phone to defend himself, he is quickly beaten down. In the nick of time, a mysterious woman who is chasing after a thief who stole from her crosses paths with Subaru in the alley. Extra luckily, she happens to be a witch, and she saves him from his unfortunate predicament. Grateful for her kindness, Subaru offers to help in her search, and later that night, they manage to track down the stolen item. But lurking in the shadows is a far more sinister force. Remember when I mentioned the intense pain and suffering in the intro? Yeah, this is the start of it. Just moments after they find the thief, Subaru and Satella, as the woman calls herself, are viciously killed. And I mean viciously, brutally, bloodily. At this point, I was fully locked in. The protagonist in an isekai just doesn't die in the first episode, and yet, Subaru suddenly awakens to a familiar scene. The same alleyway, the same group of thugs, the same woman, a repeat, a time loop, and therein lies the genius of ReZero. The mechanic that sets it apart from the dozens of shows like it, and it's not just a gimmick either. As the mysteries behind Subaru's summoning and the fantasy world of Lugunia deepen, Subaru learns to use his strange ability to steer events in his favor, even at the cost of losing his own life over and over and over. Seriously, this guy dies a lot. However, this doesn't mean he just has a giant erase button at his disposal. There are checkpoints in his life, so to speak. Points beyond which he cannot travel back, and so his actions, or inactions, still have dangerous, permanent consequences. With a diverse cast of characters from Amelia to the half-demon twins Ram and Rem, to Puck the size-changing cat, to the delightfully insane Beetlejuice, among others, to the tiny librarian Beatrix, and to my personal best girl, Krush, and her cat-eared femboy Knight Ferris. There's no shortage of entertaining personalities in this story. The world of Lugunia felt shallow at first, but it quickly began to open up with its own unique creatures, rules, and politics as multiple characters vie for the crown. I was already having a great time with the show by the time episode 15 rolled around, but without spoiling anything, it confidently shot ReZero into the top 3 isekais of all time for me. It's dark, intense, and beautiful. One of my favorite episodes of any anime ever, and nothing remains the same from that point onward. And hey, if you don't want to take my word for it, you can watch it yourself. There's no better time to pick up the show as the long-awaited 3rd season finally aired in October. Anyway, that's all we have for today, folks. Do you agree with our pick? Maybe there are some really cool things about ReZero that I forgot to mention. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell to get regular updates on new videos. I make awesome anime and manga content like this every week, so be sure to check them out. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.